Let's talk about Thanksgiving. For some of us, it's all about gratitude, family, and food. But for a lot of people, it's become this minefield of political arguments just waiting to go off. So what if, and this is a big what if we could actually redesign this holiday to help us bridge some of our deepest divides? Well, that's exactly the idea we're going to dig into today.
This quote from George Packer in The Atlantic, wow, it just gets right to the heart of the problem, doesn't it? It feels less like we're one nation and more like we're two, kind of living side by side but in completely different worlds. The challenge isn't about one side winning anymore, it's about trying to figure out how in the world we can all live together.
I think we all have this picture-perfect idea of Thanksgiving in our heads, right? Something like this old postcard, full of warmth, unity, and way too much food. But for so many of us, the reality is tense. It's filled with conversations we actively try to avoid. So, how did we even get here?
To figure out where we're going, we first have to be brutally honest about where we are right now. And very often, the problem shows up most clearly right there, at the Thanksgiving table. Our political brokenness has some really clear symptoms. It's not just about disagreeing anymore. It's this toxic polarization you see everywhere. It's the social strife, the widespread distrust we feel online, and even in our own towns. But maybe the most corrosive, the most poisonous part of it all is that last one, contempt.
The philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer had this incredible definition for it. He called contempt the unsullied conviction of the worthlessness of another. Think about that. It's not just anger or disagreement. In fact, psychologists like John Gottman say it's the #1 predictor of divorce. We're talking sarcasm, sneering, eye-rolling. It's that moment we stop seeing people we disagree with as just people we disagree with, and we start seeing them as worthless.
Okay, so this brings us to a huge question. If contempt is the poison, can we possibly create an antidote? What if we could take a holiday we already celebrate, like Thanksgiving, and actually design a ritual to help us begin the incredibly hard work of healing? And look, this isn't about just ignoring our problems or, pretending we all agree. Far from it. This is about creating a structured, intentional space for repair.
At the very heart of this idea is something called a civic ritual. It's basically a framework, a guide for having a structured conversation. Think of it like putting up guardrails for a really difficult topic. The whole goal isn't to win an argument, but to create a space that feels safe enough to explore our shared American story with all of its complications.
Now, this idea didn't just pop out of nowhere. It's actually modeled on an ancient tradition that has been tested by time for thousands of years.
So the blueprint here is the Passover Seder. Now, why a ritual? Well, because rituals give us a script to follow when our emotions are running high. For thousands of years, the Seder has given families a structure for telling a foundational story, for asking tough questions, and for passing values from one generation to the next. This civic ritual borrows that incredibly powerful format, not the religious content to be clear, but the structure itself, to explore the American story of freedom.
So what does this actually look like when you're sitting around the table? Let's break down how this reimagines a new kind of American conversation.
Okay, so the Seder is famously built around 4 core questions. This ritual cleverly adapts them for a civic purpose. Take a look at this first one. Instead of asking, "Why is this night different?" it makes a statement. On all other nights, we are divided. On this night, we are joined by what unites us. It's a really subtle but incredibly powerful shift. It reframes the entire evening away from a potential debate and toward a shared exploration.
The ritual also adapts the ancient parable of the 4 children into these 4 citizen archetypes you see here. And this is so important. It's not about labeling your uncle or your cousin at the dinner table. Not at all. It's meant as a guide for the person leading the conversation. It's a reminder that we all engage with politics differently. The goal is to find a way to tell the American story that can connect with everyone, whether they're super engaged or have totally tuned out. It's really just about meeting people where they are.
At the end of the day, the centerpiece of this whole ritual is about retelling the story of we the people. And this is not some sanitized, simple version. The key is to present it as a story that's been continuous, but also often very troubled, and is constantly, hopefully, expanding to include more and more people.
And you can see that expansion illustrated so clearly right here. The story starts way before 1776, with democratic principles from indigenous nations like the Haudenosaunee. It moves through the Declaration's radical, amazing vision, the Constitution, and then the long, hard-fought battles to make those ideals real for more people, through Reconstruction, women's suffrage, the civil rights movement. It's a story of progress, for sure, but never without a massive struggle. So just as the Seder recounts the 10 plagues of ancient Egypt, this civic ritual encourages everyone at the table to name our modern plagues. Now, the purpose here isn't to solve systemic racism in one night. Of course not. It's to create a space to simply acknowledge that these difficult issues are part of our shared reality. Just the simple act of naming them together can be a really powerful first step.
So this brings us to the whole point of it all. Why go through this? I mean, what is the ultimate goal of having such a difficult, structured conversation?
This powerful line from the poet Langston Hughes, it just captures the spirit of this perfectly. It holds both the deep disappointment and the soaring aspiration, all at once. The America that never has been yet, and the America that yet must be. This ritual is designed to help us live in that really complicated, messy space between our reality and our ideals.
Now let's be really clear. This ritual is not a magic cure for our division. It's a tool. It's a starting point. It's designed to create a space where we can wrestle with the hard stuff, together, in the hopes of maybe forging a national identity that actually has room for all of us.
And so, we end up right back where the founders began, with a challenge. After the Constitutional Convention, Benjamin Franklin was supposedly asked what kind of government they had created, and his famous reply was, "A republic if you can keep it." This ritual, it's just one small attempt to do exactly that. So the final question really isn't for them anymore. It's for all of us. How are we going to keep it?